Hello everyone. Before we begin, I just want to list that all of my sources and locations of data and statistics in this video will be included at the end of the video as well as in the description if you'd like to check them out yourself. So, recently in the media, taxing the rich has seemed to be quite a popular idea, and it's mainly come from the left, but it's become quite a popular theory in the general consensus is that by taxing the top 1% money and taking it, we can in turn solve our greatest economical dilemmas. Now, taxation without reason, while technically not illegal, is a very large flaw for any society or government. The way it is now, taxes are distributed by wealth value, and in most ways, this works pretty well. Do I agree with these policies and systems? That's another topic for another video. However, coming back to our main point, in the US, the top 1% already pays 40.8% of all federal taxes in the country. The top 10% pays the next 31%, and the top 25 pays the next 16%. Now, if you do the math, that adds up to around 71% of all income taxes paid by the top 20 to 25% of taxpayers. Well, what about the rest of the people? Well, the rest of the people only pay 29% of the income tax, while the bottom 50% pays a mere 3% of total income tax, while earning 12% of the global income in the US. So, how come the tax rate is so vastly heightened for the top 20%? Well, I think to better understand this, I should probably explain the tax rate in the US. So, you see, in the US, there are certain rates of taxation applied to each bracket of yearly median income. Since these tax rates are different for each bracket, it becomes increasingly more complex than it needs to really be. So let's say you're an individual making $518,000 or more, and you aren't married and don't own a business. Now, this part of the sentence seems quite random, but it actually will be important later, and is important for the factoring of the tax. You would have an annual tax rate of 37%. This means that your $518,000, you pay back $191,660. So now you're left with $326,000. Let's scale that down a bit and say you're in the average US income bracket. This means you're making anywhere from $40,126 to $80,525. We'll take the median and say $60,000 to make it simple. At this income bracket, you're going to be taxed 22% yearly income. You're going to then be taxed $13,200 and be left with $46,800. The entire purpose of raising the top 1%'s tax rate is to take their money in order to make everything cheaper. The left has put forward this idea that inflation is being caused by the top earners not paying their taxes. In reality, the inflation is pushed up more by the taxes on other things such as gas, electricity, and etc. These small taxes disproportionately affect the lower class, even though they are targeted at the top 20 to 1%. For example, by raising a gas tax 5%, you don't affect the top earners. For example, a rich person who's paying $3 or $3.5 will not care about the affected gas tax. However, by raising it by 5% for a person who is in the bottom to lower class, that adds up, and the taxes don't make a lot of sense. While on the topic of taxes, I feel like it's necessary to bring up the newly proposed tax bill that was recently proposed for the US citizens. This new bill proposed that it's meant to increase the top 10 to 1%'s tax rate. It will rise from 35 to 37% to 38 to 41% for the top earners. While this is technically a small increase, it's the underlying taxes along with it that make this bill very substandard. The small taxes, like mentioned earlier, although targeted at the top earners, disproportionately affect the lower class. And although the tax bill doesn't directly raise the lower class's tax rate, it doesn't actually help them either. By raising the higher tax, the lower tax then in turn is not required to pay as much, right? Well, not exactly. Because of inflation, not only will the tax rate increase, the lower taxes, while not changing, are also increasing proportionally higher than the upper classes. This topic is a bit confusing, so make sure to stay tuned for a video later on inflation. By raising the higher taxes, the higher earners, businesses, store owners, etc., will be forced to raise their prices. This in turn leads to more people having to be laid off and actually negatively affects the economy. This brings up another very large and quite important question. Are these taxes truly moral? And to that question, my answer would be, sort of. In a sense, the taxes are meant to better the overall economy and in turn make life better for the next generation, but it seems that these new taxes are only doing the opposite of that. Taxation as a whole is a very interesting idea, taken from individuals to better a grand scheme, and was one of the main reasons we created the country in the first place, to escape from that, from a oppressive taxative government. However, having tax in society does not prove beneficial at times and is not necessarily a good thing for growth of trade and commerce. In the end, one of the main reasons we broke off from Britain in the first place was overtaxation, best reflected in the phrase, no taxation without representation. Jump ahead to modern America and you'll see that our government is taxing us more than the British ever were. Is this why we broke off? So that instead of being taxed by a far off power, we could overly tax ourselves? I doubt that, and hopefully now you do too.